It's time for yet another weekly Q&A session. This one actually live here on Twitter, but we will still be fielding the questions from, of course, Discord and YouTube, starting off with the YouTube member section. And we'll actually start this whole thing off with just a very quick Bitcoin analysis. Very little has obviously changed from yesterday to today, but I just want to call out yet again that Bitcoin did actually confirm that third drive of regular bullish divergence here on the 2-day time frame. Now, that does generally have a target somewhere around that green 55 EMA, which is also in alignment with the 2-day PA pivot here as well, which is about $87,500. And I'd say anywhere around there, $500 more, $500 less is probably good enough. And I generally am looking for Bitcoin to at least rally to that region. As you can see here on the 2-day time frame, the PA pivot is actually, is still at about 87.5. So as long as Bitcoin is closing 2-day timeframes below there, it is technically still a downtrend, obviously, and this is, just a nice little bounce. But if Bitcoin can actually close above this region, which is also synonymous with that green 55 EMA, then I would look for this run to extend. I don't know, somewhere around like $93,000 to $95,000. That would be the next sort of area of interest and perhaps failure as well. Anyways, let's see. Other than that, I do want to call out that hidden bearish divergence is also building on the other side here. In fact, just like the hidden bullish divergence has been governing these lows, the hidden bearish divergence on the 2-day time frame has been governing the highs. So if Bitcoin does top out below 87.5, that will be a third drive and third strike of hidden bearish divergence, and I would be looking for this one to come back down probably closer to the lows that we've seen over the past week and a half here. Anyways, other than that, I think we're pretty much good there. Let's do the daily check-in on the quantum wave bands here. A lot of people have been asking questions about this, but the 30-minute time frame has actually not produced a new trade since we last spoke. The last trade was right here. This was coming in from very early on Saturday. Very quick little scalp. Again, this is a 30-minute time frame, and of course, the quantum wave bands are just designed for quick scalps, not for long-term trading trades, although those sort of strategies are being worked on right now and will be added actually on May 1st. But other than that, you can always, as always, try it out for free for the first 30 days with the code TRIAL in all capitals. That can apply to the Quant Prime service as well, but that's certainly a lot more advanced. This one's a lot more beginner friendly. And then you can also even use that for the Caretakers Indicator Bundle and the Crown VMP. So yeah, and actually we'll be having a big announcement with regards to the quantum wave bands tomorrow. So of course, anyone who jumps in before May 1st, you're going to get grandfathered into all of the upcoming changes and additions for the lower price. All right, sweet. Enough shilling for one moment. Let's get into, of course, the YouTube member section, as they do get priority for these Q&As. And we'll start it off with Crypto Hood. Hopefully I'm getting that properly. What are your thoughts on the M2 monetary supply versus Bitcoin price? When looking at the chart, there is a lag and the M2 has gone up a lot recently. Yeah, so this is I'm guessing this is like the big meme right now in the market where everyone's kind of reposting Raoul Pal's M2 monetary supply versus Bitcoin price, and there's something like a 9 or 10 week lag between the two. And yes, the global liquidity has obviously taken a big leg up. In fact, we have our own chart over here and our own strategy regarding it over here. I actually haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see what it's saying right now. I'm just genuinely curious. Yeah, it is still actually making new all-time highs. This is your global liquidity index right here with the yellow line chart. And that quite literally is making new all-time highs. So global liquidity continues to expand. Yes, there is a pretty good relationship between this and Bitcoin price, or just, all risk on assets price. This would be the one fundamental thing in the background that still makes me consider that, okay, it is still a long-term bull market, and this thing is going to be making new all-time highs from here. I do think that there's a big bounce from here. I do think that Bitcoin could even trade all the way up to like $95,000. But my personal stance is still that, as long as until Bitcoin really proves itself, I'm looking at rallies into the mid 90s as actually, probably a bull trap, to be honest with you. Again, that's only based off of the fact that all of the signal, not all of them, but many of the signals that were keeping us bullish all the way from January 2023 till pretty much current times, beginning of 2025, those are now getting the opposite opposite signals or in the process of getting opposite signals. So I do think that, it's less likely personally, but if you're just going off of this, then yeah, it's making new all-time highs. If you follow the relationship, then of course, Bitcoin should be making new all-time highs as well, with about a 10-week lag. And let's just see, when did it start to make new all-time highs, or at least move off these lows? Was that about 10 weeks ago? Well, it was actually actually a little bit more than 10 weeks ago. That was 84 days ago on a weekly time frame here. So that, I guess that'd be like 11 and a half weeks as of right now. Anyways, my personal take on this is that I did not do the original analysis. This was Raoul Powell's thing. So I'm not a fucking expert when it comes to the M2 and stuff like this. Can I look at it and say, it looks valid, or at least his synopsis of it looks valid from what I've seen? Yeah, I think that there's some weight to it, but for me, it doesn't supersede the things that, I'm more familiar with. Doesn't mean that I can't work out. It's just, it's not my cup of tea. But yeah, if the relationship holds, then we should be expecting new all-time highs for Bitcoin. Yes. In the not so distant future as well, especially if that, time relationship holds as well. But here's the thing. And in fact, I'm going to do probably a bigger video on this tomorrow, but going back here, priorly over the past week or so, since I brought up the time extension for the Fibonacci sequence here, I was looking at this date in very late May, basically not late May, late April/early May, as a likely bottoming area. And now that I look at it, I do think that it's actually going to be marking another top in terms of time. In fact, most of these extensions have been lining up with tops. So does Bitcoin rally into that date? I think so. I do think so. The more that I look at it, but yeah. Anyways, back on target here. Let's see. We have Banksy rules next. He says silver and gold, short and long term timeframes. Okay, let's try gold first. Gold, last we looked at it, we were bullish, looking for new all-time highs, and new all-time highs have been had, actually, after that short-term pullback there. I mean, very short-term pullback, to be fair. I mean, this is basically painless for gold investors, like fucking 6-7% down and then immediately back up to new all-time highs. Very powerful, very, very nice. I generally think that gold is going to continue to new all-time highs from here. I mean, it's literally just put in a massive bullish engulfing dildo. Can it have a pullback down to like 31.75? Sure. Yeah, that's not a problem. It doesn't do anything for the long term. I do think that this one will continue to make new all-time highs, but I do want to start to sound the alarm bell with this general run. While I do think it has new highs, I do think that this one is really in the end stages of a parabolic advance. We can see that weekly volatility is starting to reach up to levels that we, typically don't see unless if it's a major high or a major low. Obviously, in this case, it's going to be a major high. On top of that, bearish divergence building of many drives on the weekly RSI. I suspect the monthly maybe as well. Actually, no. Funnily enough, the monthly does not have it at all. But the quarterly will. Now, again, just because it's building doesn't mean that it's going to turn down exactly from here. I do think that this one will make new highs, but this is the very difficult portion of a parabolic blow off top, is the end stages of it. So for that, it's certainly not perfect, but I like to use Fibonacci extensions to see, general areas of interest. The next one's going to be about 32.78. I mean, I think that one definitely gets hit. I think because this move has been so strong, it can actually reach towards some of these deeper extensions here, maybe somewhere around 35 to 3,700 if things get really, really crazy. But I really would be sounding the alarm bell that I think that this rally in terms of time is going to be over probably before the end of the year. And short term, as you asked for, I'll just go to a daily. It's just continuing from here, man. If there's going to be a short term pullback, it can come back down to like 31.70 or so, but that doesn't do anything again. And if I did have to call the short term, I guess I would say a short term pullback is a little bit more likely, but you're picking up fucking pennies on a railroad track at that point. Silver, we can do that one really quickly as well. I suspect that silver is probably going to be quite similar to gold, except we don't typically look at silver, or at least I don't typically look at silver. And actually, it's nothing like gold. This one, not on new all-time highs. In fact, nowhere near all-time highs, but actually looking pretty good here nonetheless. I forget the last time that we looked at this, but I remember it was breaking out over here. I still generally think that this one's going to trade to the upside. I do think that you get another shot somewhere around 35 to 37 and a half bucks, but that can take a long time, obviously. Quarterly chart, again, I like this. I do think that it will try at least a little bit higher. And then, you do have a very nice long-term uptrend here. Daily time frame, I think that this one continues early on within next week, probably somewhere around 33 and a quarter. 4 hour, same shit. Probably a little bit of a pullback somewhere around there, but higher term timeframes are still set up for a general continuation. And like I said, even the lower term timeframes are as well. There's just one concerning thing here that's not confirmed as of right now, but certainly can get confirmed as early as the end of this month, which would be monthly bearish divergence here between the highs from October of last year and the highs that are being printed in February/March here. There will be bearish divergence, but only if this thing closes below about 31 and a quarter end of month. So yeah, anyways. That's it for that one. There's actually more to this message. And then you're also looking at S&P versus TBT. Why would I look at these two things versus each other? SPX versus TBT. TBT. What is TBT? I don't know, but it has a chart, so that's fine. I would be short SPY here, long TBT. I think that this thing will come up more down over the long term. Yeah. It's getting probably a bounce in the short term, but long term, I think that this one's coming back down closer to those lows, like 120-ish region, something like this. Overall, it's just one long-term consolidation range here, right? Something like this. Highs right there, lows right here. You just hit the highs. Probably going to come down at least to the middle of the range, probably closer even to the lower end of the range. And you're not quite there just yet. So yeah. Anyways, and what's up to our friends over here on Twitter, Mike and EMS Rectops and Hamios. Actually, I'll just quickly answer this question from Hamias. He says, with the Metamafioso NFT, do you get the quantum wavebands? No. I really don't understand why people think this. And I'm not saying this in like a mean way or anything. I'm just generally curious why people think this. But the crown trading business is completely separate from MetaSignals. I'm an investor in MetaSignals, but I'm not like the creator or anything like this. I'm not a part of like the team. I'm not like doing shit over there. I'm not responsible for their products and services and whatnot. Quantum Waveband's completely different. So yeah, do they come together? No, they do not, of course. Anyways, moving on from there, we have Crypto Rect RD. He says, "Dear Sir Crown, how are you? I'm doing all right. It's actually starting to turn around here in Helsinki. It's not snowing anymore and actually getting quite warm, at least for April. It's nearly 5 degrees Celsius right now. Anyways, you say, can you please outline potential next lower high price range for these tokens? I understand in your recent videos you have been looking more at the 50% to the 618 level in that region, and you want to look at yes. Okay, so deep peng. All right. Let's just go down the top here. Pengu, pudgy penguins. All right. I feel like there should be more chart to this, but if this one's going to put in a lower high, your obvious area is 0.0066 region, somewhere around here. That would be a great place for another lower high. Bearish as long as you're below the PA pivot right here. But I do think that you can rally up a lot closer to that level and then, probably top out somewhere right around here. You already have hidden bearish divergence. Oh, actually you do not have hidden bearish divergence possible yet, but if the rally extends even a little bit more, it will once again be a potential. But yeah, that would imply that generally it probably sees somewhere around this region. I don't know how long it takes. I mean, it's daily time frame after all, and very little on the actual chart. But yeah. Anyways, deep. We'll do deep next. Actually, I have that one on my list. I traded that one on the way to the upside. In hindsight, I think I got out a pretty damn good price for this damn thing. Anyways, same shit for this one as well. I think that it could rally up a lot closer to that green moving average that's currently a little bit above 9 cents. But you're going to have the same sort of hidden bearish divergence. In fact, this one already has it as potentially possible as you're making significantly higher highs in the late and in mid-March highs. So, it could rally up somewhere around 9 cents, top out there, come back down, something like this. The trend is your friend. And this one, I do believe, is setting into the long-term downtrend of fucking death. Looking at the weekly, long term, yeah, I think that this one's topped out for this cycle, probably maybe even for its full life cycle. Who knows? But the next move should be a bounce. I would expect at least 9 cents. If it can start to trade and hold above about 10.5 cents, then I think that this move can extend a lot more, like a lot more. I'm talking like 50% more, somewhere around 15 to 16 cents. But that's pretty well and far away right now. At least in the short term, should extend the bounce a little bit more. It nearly has a bullish engulfing dildo on the weekly time frame here, closing later today. So not looking bad there. Anyways, what else are you looking at? Mog coin. All right. Mog and frog. All right, let me finish off a little bit more of this caffeine. Same shit here on the weekly as well. Nice bullish engulfing dildo. I do think that this one will inevitably be trading at least a little bit higher, somewhere around here. I don't know about this bounce. That's maybe a little bit too generous. I don't know what I was drawing out right there. Next sort of short / medium term target is going to be somewhere around that 60,000, whatever the fuck number this is, just this right here. That's going to be it. Like I said, I do think that you trade a little bit higher than that overall. But to be fair, there already is, again, potential for hidden bearish divergence the second that it, confirms a local high. So does it try a little bit higher first, then confirm a local high, and then play at a pullback? Or does it pull back from here and then try higher later? That I really don't know. But I do think at some point it is going to be trying higher. All of your higher term timeframes are suggesting that a bounce carries on for a while. 5-day time frame also has bullish divergence there. So, I would tentatively say the overall target is probably closer to here, is probably closer to there, and then come back to it after that. These things can bounce a lot, to be fair. Like this thing came down, what? 93.5%, very fucking bullish. It can bounce up like fucking 30, 40, 50% even, and really not do all that much. And then last one, we got Fartcoin. Fartcoin, I definitely know is the strongest of the bunch. Let's see. Yeah. But I actually think that this one's putting in a local high where it's at right now. This is about the same area as the major breakdown that began on February 1st. It's traded up into there a couple times already. I think that this one's actually going to put in a local high right here. Obviously, this one did not come down as much as I was expecting. I was expecting, probably a full retracement, honestly, but did come down about 50% from 65 to 35 there. I think that you're going to get another big retracement right here. Is it going to be like a straight down? I don't know. It's hard to be bearish on what literally has been the strongest performer, especially over these last couple weeks. Either which way, I think that you're going to be putting in a local high somewhere around here, comes back down, but you kind of have to be looking for higher lows on this one rather than a full-on fucking catastrophic fallout. I think it could come down easily to 70 cents, maybe even 65 cents, but it's also a great place for another higher low. This one is certainly the least bearish of the bunch. All right, nice one. Okay, so that does it for our YouTube members. As always, they get priority, and now let's go to my chats with Elsa. Great fucking job. Anyways, I've already posted, by the way, the new Q&A session right here for April 13th. In case if there's been there has been some confusion with this, I put the date of which I am starting the posting on, not that the Q&A is going to be on that date. So it's always, 1 week later. Anyways, we'll start off over here. Let me scroll to the top. See what we got going on. Space Cadet Panda says, first question, how are you so cool? I'm really, if that's what you get from my videos, it's all a lie. It's all a fucking lie, man. No, I'm extremely uncool. I don't think many people would want to switch lives with me. Like, I don't do many social things, except for, I guess, this is probably my most social thing is going on YouTube. And then, I do go to boxing training, so I know all the people there. But other than that, man, I love my life, don't get me wrong, but I think most people would not fucking like it, to be honest. Like, I don't really have social activities. I don't do stuff like that. I'm pretty stuck in my routines. I literally eat the same thing every day, the same amounts every day. I love it. Again, I fucking love it, but I understand most people can't even eat the same fucking meal twice in a row from day to day. I do that literally every fucking day. So yeah, anyways, Tristram says, hello, Zer. all Zarette, all fellow Simpson virgins, and doggos. What are its pronouns? Who knows, man? Who knows? Doggy derp. Anyways, today I'd like to ask you about your approach to position sizing. Do you have any algorithm that determines how much you can invest in relationship to strategy performance? If yes, are you going to include it in one of your services? Basically, you're asking, how do I figure out my sizing? And is it some sort of like hyper, complex equation? It's not. In the past, it has been more of that, just because, I had more, limited trading equity. At this point, I just want to keep my sizes completely steady, completely stable, because I don't want it going up any higher than what it is. And, I don't really want it going lower as well. It's just, I'm happy where things are at. I'm happy to just make, relatively small gains than compared to before, because I'm not in like massive money generation mode. But here's a good rule for you. Okay, the sort of general formula that you should consider when looking at position sizing should take into account what your strategy is. So this first assumes that you actually have a strategy. So 99% of people are already like fucking out the door on this one because they don't even have a fucking strategy. Now we're going to get rid of the next 99%. Then you have to backtest that fucking strategy, which very few people will do as well. Most people just blindly trust that, oh, my lines over here are looking good, or, oh, my indicator over here said, X, Y, Z. It means nothing without context. And the only way that we can get context for what these stats mean is by going into our strategy statistics. And the only way that you can get that is by backtesting. And then, of course, I'm very lazy with my backtesting now because I just do it through the Quant Prime service. But going back on over here, let me actually go into, wait, why is it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes. Going back here. So once you know your hit rate, and once you know your not your average drawdown, but like your average loss. So whenever you take a loss, how much percentage against you is it? And don't just do the average. Also go out like 3 standard deviations from that average. And then you have a pretty good idea of how much you can risk and not fucking blow up your account. Because the issue is that many people get over leveraged, and then they just they just blow up their account, like obviously. So the idea is that you want to give yourself enough space in terms of sizing to take many losses in a row, even if that doesn't happen too often. Like even if your strategy's hit rate is 50%, for example, you want to choose a level that you want to choose a number that would allow you to lose 10 of those trades in a row, and you lose the average amount on each one. And if you can survive that, okay, your position sizing is fine. If you can't, you got a fucking problem, because at some point you will run into one of these crazy situations. Does it happen often? Obviously fucking not. But the more extreme that you kind of backtest it against, the better resilience that you will have. I would say at least assume that you're going to lose 5 trades in a row. I would personally say even 10 trades, and then backwards engineer from there. Like, what would be the minimum size that would allow you to survive such an event? So yeah. All right, let me finish off a little bit more of this. Damn fucking paper straws. Hate this shit. Classic Europe. Classic fucking Europe. All right. Anyways, let's move on now. We got Samuel Johnson. He says, hey, Grand Crown, what's up, man? Following up on XPeng, XPEV on NAS. 3 weeks ago, you were looking for a pullback to 1617, which has already happened. Okay, nice. But now what? Strong bounce, but do you think it'll range here for a while? Well, let's go look at the actual chart. How about that? This thingy. Okay, and got down literally to $16 and then nice big bounce. I have the same issue with this as I do with most cryptos and also with stonks as well. In that daily can still easily put in a lower high at around $22, but I do think that this one will try higher from where it's currently at. So I don't think that this current rally is done. I think you're going to get at least closer to this $21.50 region. Do you close above there or not? And if you close above there, does it really change anything? For me, technically it should, because that would be taking out that last lower high. But this is kind of a nuanced situation because we're coming in from the last major breakdown area, which has provided the impetus for the rejection recently in the past few weeks. And then also your big one here from July of 2023. So it's like the issue that I have with this is, yeah, okay, very likely gets somewhere around here, but if it reclaims there or does something like this, then your next target is obviously going to be somewhere right around here, and that would be another rejection place. I mean, this thing is, failed to really push through there. As of recent, usually brushing up against something a couple times, like relatively close, is a good sign, but. I would hold my reservations here. It's very difficult to call like a macro breakout, essentially. Before it happens. It's just always better to bet on the other side. But if I had to bet on some side, I do think that it will try a little bit higher, but I do think it will probably be another rejection. So we've already had the easy moves from this. It was easy to say, hey, it's going to come down to like 16, 17 bucks. It's easy to say that it's going to bounce from these regions as well. And it's easy to say that it's going to bounce a little bit more. To actually break out above this macro level, that is something that I wouldn't go as far to say. You're better off betting against it. At some point probably does break. Is it going to be on this particular iteration? Maybe, but time shall tell. Anyways, Rectop says, GM, Crown, and Elsa, what's up, man? You mentioned 4-year cycle being broken. So can I ask how you came to this conclusion? And would you agree that there will be more extended cycles like TradFi? Okay, so a couple questions here. All right. Okay, so I mentioned the 4-year cycle being broken. Yeah, 4-year cycle is officially broken when Bitcoin essentially comes back down below the weekly lows, at least in my opinion. So it's technically not broken right now. Obviously, we haven't seen 4 years out from the last cycle low, and that's the 4-year cycle, right? So it is premature to be saying something like this, but from what I see, with Bitcoin here. I do, I've already let known, my issues with the higher term timeframes, but that has not confirmed an actual reversal of the cycle just yet. I think it's close, but we do have some indications of a breaking cycle. Of course, Bitcoin made new all-time highs before the halving. That is a characteristic that we have not really seen before. And then two, I've been calling out a lot of bearish divergences on the higher term timeframes here, and these have traditionally ended the cycle. And so if the cycle is over, then obviously that would be before 4 years, and that would essentially, that would negate the 4-year cycle. And I do think that at some point it will be broken. Is it now? I think now is a pretty damn good time, but over a long enough period of time, I do think that it will be broken inevitably. But in big part because Bitcoin now has an ETF on traditional markets, and ETFs make trading a lot different. People who are investing into ETFs, big money managers, big funds, they trade differently. They aren't like the usual crypto degens. They will sell a lot sooner to the upside and also buy a lot sooner to the downside than your traditional crypto people. Things will generally move in like 10 to 20% ranges. And so my sort of inclination here is that over a long enough period of time, we're going to see Bitcoin essentially act as like a major ETF. If we go over here, where's my triple Qs? Yeah. Goes up a lot, moves sideways for a long time, goes up a lot again, but we're not going to see as crazy a moves anymore. At least that's my take. Anyways, we have Lovewoods next. What's up, man? Good to see you as always. Have a good day. I appreciate that, man. You as well. You want to look at SPY futures, 4-hour, okay, lower term timeframes. Let's go over here to SPY, 4-hour time frame. Just like Bitcoin, I do think it's going to trade a little bit more to the upside here. At least you can see that since this downturn really began, that white 200 moving average has been bullying price, basically getting the breakdown over here. I would essentially look at this as the lower highs more recently in late March and then again in early April. But I do think that you'll come very close to that, probably even officially test it. That is about 56.45 or so. And that should be a pullback area. Is it going to be a reversal area? Well, we'll see. But, I generally think it's going to come up somewhere around here. And by the way, this will work its way down, with each and every passing closure. So maybe it's somewhere closer to like 5,600 or 5,550 by the time price actually does test it. But I would definitely be looking for a pullback from that region. And then we get to play the game of, okay, is there a higher low coming now? And is it time to like actually look at this as a real major reversal? Or not. And that's probably not relevant because you're on a 4-hour time frame. So we'll have plenty of time to get back there if and when that does happen. But basically, if you just want an easy pivot here, as long as SPY is above about 52.69 up, this is indeed at least a short-term reversal. I mean, you got higher high right here and higher low right here, and also higher low right here, actually. So yeah, you do have an uptrend on the lower term time frames, that is. All right, nice one. Myth Reindeer, what's up, man? Hello, mate, and hello to the queen. Nice. I've been trying to find a strategy like the 12-hour 5 EMA one, but for shorts to capture those big trendy moves, but it doesn't really work that well at all. I have a couple of other questions, or I have a couple of other ones, but they are for lower time frames. Did you find anything similar for the short side, or you mostly scalp to the downside? I go back and forth with this a lot, but my take now, based off of my preference, based off of my situation, is that I'm not that interested in finding short strategies for Bitcoin, because the obvious answer is the upside is easier. And when you're using a bot, you're typically you're typically trying to capture long-term trending price, right? And Bitcoin has long-term trends to the upside, certainly a lot less long to the downside, usually somewhere around a year or less. So for me, it's like trying to fucking squeeze water from a rock. Like you can do it if you really, 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 really want to, but I think it's going to cause more issues for more people than not. In fact, if I was going to discretionarily trade, I would probably primarily or only do it to the downside. Putting a bot on the downside, it's just in downwards markets, things can move so fucking erratically. I wouldn't like it. I like to have my bots on long-term upside strategies, just looking to catch, easy trending moves. That's all I'm looking for there. Anyways, Hamia says, hey, Crown, for the Fibonacci time extension change behavior on the first week of May, assuming that Bitcoin is in a downtrend throughout, which is already not, throughout April, are you saying that there is a possibility of Bitcoin heading up after this? I think based off of, that's what I was thinking before, because obviously Bitcoin was going down. Now I think I'm going to switch that around. It's going to be the opposite. Bitcoin's going to rally until that date and then turn down, because when I look at it, most of these pivots here on time, or not pivots, but extensions on time, correlate with highs, not lows. In fact, they all correlate with highs except for this one from late April of last year. Now, does late April of last year match late April of this year? Well, it didn't before. The first one over here was a high. This one over here, a low. This one over here, a high. So that's the odd man out. So it's more likely to be a high. And shame on me for not recognizing that earlier. But yeah, I'd have to say it's more likely to be a high around that date, and then Bitcoin starts another down move. Does Bitcoin make new lows on that downside move or not? I don't know, but I do still look at that the 55 EMA on the 10-day time frame as a likely target for any sort of downside move that might happen from this range, and that's currently $70,000. You can imagine in another few closures, it's probably going to be like low 70s. So maybe it even meets up to like 74 if things really get drawn out. So I'm starting to see, okay, maybe the run could continue. Maybe things do elongate, but they elongate in time. And you see something like this comes down here, bases again, everyone gets super scared, and then trades sideways, and then does the fucking massive bull, around end of year. I think that is actually very possible. But, we'll see. If Bitcoin goes sideways, basically between like 70 and 95,000 bucks for the next few months, I would look at that as really, 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 really good. But, it's just naturally going to take a lot of time, right? Anyways, Conan766 says, hey, Crown, what are your thoughts on Berkshire Hathaway as a long-term investment alternative to the S&P 500? By long-term, I mean 10 years minimum. My thoughts being, although S&P 500 has more history and it's likely to never go to zero, Berkshire should potentially have greater risk and reward. I would just agree with that straight up. Yeah, I do think so. But as you go on to mention, that's my big issue with Berkshire is that Warren Buffett, he's not going to be around for too much longer. Unfortunately, shout out to him. He's one of the best, most legendary OGs of all time. But his partner's already passed, and actually, I love Charlie Munger. I love listening to his shit. But yeah, when he passes, do they lose their magic? I don't know. If you look at recent times as well, I don't think, or at least, what's this ticker again? BRK or BRB? BRK, yeah. BRKB. Yes, there we go. Oh, God damn it, I derped it. BRK.B. There we go. Okay. All right. In recent times, I do want to call out this. So from the Rona lows of 2020 to the current all-time high, this thing gained 237%. That's really fucking impressive. When we go to SPY, representing the S&P, it gained during that same period about 50% less. So I would say it's a better long-term investment, but your risk is that whoever replaces Warren is not Warren. So I don't know. I mean, I would assume that they've been preparing for this situation for a long time. It's not like it's a fucking surprise, but I don't know. I don't know the internals of their company, and I wouldn't even know how to judge it anyway. So yeah. Anyways, at current, or especially if this was like 20 years ago, I'd say, fuck yeah, man. Berkshire looks a lot better to me. But I also don't know their performance fee or their transaction fees. These things can eat into that, of course. But I would assume it's probably reasonable at least. Anyways, Crypto Khalifa says, morning. Good morning to you as well. Pound versus dollar on the daily. All right, sweet. GBP, USD. We'll go here and we go to the daily as this one's going up. Nice reversal on the daily. You even have an inverted herp and derp here as well. You might spend a little bit of time around this 131 region. It's definitely possible, but I do think that, I already have a chart here. I generally think that the LARP lines are still going to play out. I think that you will see this previous high from September of last year retested at some point this year, probably sooner rather than later. Weekly, very fucking powerful right there. Yeah, I think that this one honestly has like a macro low in here. Yeah. Yeah, I think that this one's putting in one massive fucking bottom. But that's going to take a long time. This is a monthly after all. I think at some point you actually see a move towards like 140 and play out this range for a while. So yeah, next move probably up. Let's see. Mario Super says, hey Crown, thanks for your answer and your thoughts to my entertainment, movies, and toxic for mine. Yes. Question. I remember this one. I really liked what you said about gratitude, realizing how good we have it today compared to most times. Yeah. That's honestly being, whenever I'm sad and like I think about how good things are just in general, just by the fact that we live in the year 2025 and, you're probably in a Western country, it's pretty fucking good, all things considered. Okay, nice. I'm glad to hear that as well, sir. But yes, sure, man. Yeah. I love talking about this kind of stuff. If you only had these two options, would you rather work a 9-to-5 job you do not enjoy, but also not hate? Okay, so you don't hate it, but you don't love it, and earn $1 million a year until you are 65 years old, or get $35,000 a year for free for your whole life. For $35,000 a year for free for your whole life. Can I do something with it? Oh, I'm not allowed to participate in any activity to gain more. Now I would, well, maybe you could take $35,000 a year and go to like Thailand or something and live all right there. But, if I want to stay in a Western country, it'd have to be $1 million a year. I'll just fucking suck it up. It is what it is, man. But it's easy for me to say that without actually having to do it. So I don't know. I'd probably do a little bit of both, honestly. $35,000 a year while I'm young, from like 20 to 35. Go live in a third world country or a second world country and live it up there. You'd probably be fine on that amount. But $1 million a year, yeah, that's hard to beat. Especially if you can, use that money for other things that you like. I mean, your 9-to-5 job isn't 24/7, it's 9 to 5. So it's not, it's not impossible to get your joy from other places if you don't hate it. I mean, we're so obsessed with having fun and joy in these days. It's a real sign that we are in such privileged times. I mean, this was never a topic of conversation before. It was completely fine before to just work your job and provide for your family. And that's just what being a man was. It's not like completely normal. And that's what nearly almost everyone did. So, I wouldn't denigrate anything like that because there's a lot of honor in that as well. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I think that's where I'll end that one. All good, man. And I appreciate these sort of questions as well. Nuke the Black Cubes says, GM, SERP, Simp, and Virgin. Yes, I am both. Dog in me daily chart. Dog in me. Okay, it is a real thing on crypto or in crypto. Also, funnily enough, one of the better charts that we have seen today, certainly that I've seen in the last few months as well. It's been around since September. It's consistently put in higher highs and higher lows. Did not dump all, well, definitely did dump with the rest of the market last week, but didn't dump to like new lows. I just look at this as a highly volatile, speculative crypto asset. Anyways, I know someone who won't let this one go. I think he's in profit, but it seems like he's holding without no plan. Oh, if he's holding without no plan, then yeah, it's guaranteed he will lose money over time. I don't hate holding this one right now. I think you're going to see a lot of volatility in here, just by the nature of it being like a highly liquid shitcoin, I'm guessing. But I mean, shit, man. If this thing bounced back up to like 1/10 of a cent, I would sell the shit out of this. The key word here, or the key phrase here, is that he doesn't have a plan. When you don't have a plan, your expected value over a long enough period of time is always going to be zero or close to zero. So if he had a plan and he's like really looking for a real area to sell or some sort of objective signal to sell off of, okay, I don't hate this chart compared to most things. But the fact that he has no plan is just, you're fucked. Like, you're fucked. You're fucked. It's never going to work out. Never going to work out. You might get lucky here and there, but in the long term, it will never work out. I can assure you of this. Mr. Barash says hello. Hello as well, sir. How you doing, ma'am? Cookie Munster says, hello, Mr. Crown. Thank you for answering my question so well. I'm glad to hear that. Better than not answering it well, I guess. This is very kind. Isn't the VIX and S&P 500 index above 30? Okay, you mean VIX. You're looking at VIX above 30 as a good time to buy S&P. Well, so far it has been. Over the last... Over the last, 5 years? No, over the last 10 years, basically since, for a very long time. I mean, above 30, yeah, those are going to start to correlate with some major lows. Of course, it can trade higher than there. We did certainly see it move higher. We saw it move all the way to 60 here. It's kind of your risk with that. It's like that only happens during extreme moves. So it's like, are you catching the low of it or just the beginning of the next breakdown? But going back to your question here, is that a good indicator to buy? If you're a long-term investor, thinking many years down the road, holding for many years, I should say, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Okay, it's like on this last move, I guess if you waited for that signal to happen, that happened, 2 weeks ago. So you caught the first 15% move down, but you missed the next 10% for 25% down. It's like, if you're a very long-term investor, are you going to hate that? No, you don't need to be fucking perfect, obviously. So I would say if that's your perspective, yeah, it's fine. Another question. Nope, we only do one, sir. We only do one. And I know nothing about the second half of this question anyway, so there goes that. Anyways, MS33K says, Huva Paiva. Yes, you know some Finnish, more than me, actually. Good day to you as well, ma'am. Could you please look at stock Saudi Arabian Oil Company? Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste this one because that is too damn long. All right, this thing, and you're on what time frame? Weekly. Okay, got it. Oh, we're already on a weekly. Long term, hate it. Short term, just like most things, I think it's bouncing here. Wouldn't be surprised to see this one trade up closer to like $28. Okay, maybe not 28, like somewhere between 27.5 to $28. I do think you're putting in something resembling a low here, but the long term trend is to the downside, very obviously. So whatever bounce you do get is very likely a sell. Yeah, I mean, technically the last PA pivot is right here at 26.75. So do need to reclaim that before 27.5 becomes, likely. But, I think that you probably do. There's many drives of bullish divergence here, even up to a weekly time frame. You can see massively higher lows from this point to this point. I would argue that the hidden bearish divergence has already played out, to get new lows there. So you're probably in a bounce phase. I think this thing could trade up, like I said, 27.5 to 28. I think that it probably will. But that would be a great place for another lower high, man. Great place for another lower high. All right, sweet. Maxi says, good day, sir. And then in all capitals, is the weekly for Bitcoin setting up a potential bullish divergence? Obviously, it's not actionable by any means, but what's your take? Thank you and have a good day. Okay. It does the weekly have bullish divergence. No, it does not, because it made lower lows on the weekly RSI compared to the previous lows. So you can, by definition, not have bullish divergence when that happens during regular bullish divergence. You could have hidden bullish divergence, but even that, I would say, you did have it back on over here on this weekly. I'd say that's the easy portion of that move's already played out, obviously. If you're going off of that, you're a little bit late to the party, I suppose. Anyways, yeah. All right. Tobo says, GM, sir, I hope you are hydrated and well. You know what? That reminds me. I appreciate that. Feeling hydrated now. All right. Ignimisu says, good morning, sir. I hope you're doing well. I'm here every day for my daily magic money analysis dose. There we go. Fucking inject it directly into your veins, man. Given the current market trends and situation, how would you recommend using the VMP, trading stochastic, and BBWP in trading strategies? All right. Just design my trading strategy for me. So for the VMP, you're going to be, this is an indicator that combines volatility, momentum, and even statistics as well. So you actually don't really need to combine it with the BBWP if you don't want, because it's kind of built into that one. But generally, with the VMP, during volatile sessions, you want to wait for the percentile to get very, very low. That tells you that a big move is incoming, and then wait for low levels of that plus a recent turn on the VMP and color change ideal as well. And then you probably got, at least a nice bounce or pullback depending upon which direction it's coming from. So if you have low percentile plus high VMP turning down, then you probably got a nice little short scalp, and vice versa if it was the other way with low percentile but turning around from down to up from a low level on the oscillator part. Something like this is ideas that you could explore. Treebeard says, hello, master. Euro dollar in weekly and daily, please. All right. Euro dollar. We've been bullish on this one for a while. I think I'm still going to be bullish on it. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right at a good area for a short-term pullback, but if it does pull back, I don't think it's how far down could it go? I guess it could come back down to 112 or so, but all higher term timeframes are bullish here. All higher term timeframes are looking higher. I would generally be looking for this one to reach up towards 118 to even 120. This is going to take a long time. It's a fucking monthly chart, right? But maybe a short-term pullback here. Maybe it comes back down, like I said, to 112, but I'd be looking for it to extend the run after that. You're even getting a quarterly signal right here for the VMP or the Joule. So yeah, I have to say that I favor that. All right. Anyways, let's move on. We have Gallo next says, hey, Crown, what's up, man? I saw your last week's response to someone else saying you never go 100% in on all your cash or wait a reversal and you'd rather be 90% in. Okay. I think I understand what you're saying, even though I don't think that sentence makes much sense. Does that mean you never go 100% fully invested on stock or crypto? Crypto is spelled with a Y, my good man. You don't use leverage? If yes, when? Okay, a lot of questions here. Okay, so do I never go fully? Well, it depends how you measure that. If it's relative to my total equity, yeah, then I never go fully in, of course. But there is, of course, just equity that is designated to invest. And with that, yes, I will go pretty much all in. at some point of that, but that's the purpose of it. So yeah. Anyways, do I use leverage? Yes, when I'm doing trading, but not investing. I think if you're a long-term investor, using leverage is a big fucking potential point of failure. If you're doing trading, of course, leverage is also a potential point of failure. But the idea is that you'd be managing your risk a lot earlier than waiting for like any sort of potential liquidation or anything like this. So, yeah, man. Anyways, we'll move on to Chev here. He says, T triple Qs, double top, daily weekly targets. Well, let's see. Is it a double top? It is a double top. Does it have bearish divergence? It does have bearish divergence. That is a quarterly. So a lot of this has already played out. I mean, certainly the easy portion of this move has already played out. So I'm probably getting to this comment like probably like a week late. I think in the short term, you're going to bounce here though, just like most markets. This thing probably bounced up to like 56.5 or so. Yeah, I'd say weekly as well. I think your next move is a bounce. Could easily trade up to even like 61.5. But you got potential for bull trap as long as you are below about 73.25. So while I do think it bounces more, I just exercise a bit of caution as long as it's below there. Good time to take profits on a bounce, I suppose. Anyways, Free Mind says, hello, brother. Hope all is well. All is decent, I suppose. It's all right. Hopefully good for you as well, sir. Regarding the quant program, with changing market conditions, would you say it's wise to periodically refine and or create new strategies? I think that you should do that regardless, just because, it keeps you sharp. There's always some way to make something better. And sometimes you just find something completely new anyways. And the only way that you're going to do that is by playing with it. Weird way to say it, but yeah, you have to be creative. You have to, try new things out. So you say, for example, do you create one strategy for a trending market and one for a ranging market? Kind of, yeah. Right now I just run two strategies. One is more of a short-term timeframe scalping strategy. The other one is a higher-term timeframe scalping strategy, but I could easily trade that for a trending strategy when I think things are going to start to trend again. But for now, I'm quite happy just keeping it right there. So yeah. I don't like turning strategies on and off like you're suggesting here, because ideally, or at least you should be, during your back testing phase, testing during multiple different market environments. And unless if you're just testing very specific environments and you really like the results then you need to set up some sort of, objective condition that identifies that market portion of the cycle. So yeah, other than that, I don't really do that. I like to test my stuff through the worst of times and the best of times. The worst of times, most importantly, because, well, I want to know what happens to the strategy if a black swan happens. Is it going to survive? Because that's always possible. It's always possible that a black swan can happen. It's very low probability, but it's possible. So yeah. Anyways, Admiral Akbar says, hello, sir. Just wanted to follow up on soybean. Time to get out, maybe? I don't know. Let's see. Soybean cash. Is it this thing? I think that this thing tries a little bit higher. Yeah, I think that this thing's going to try towards like 1074, 1075 region. Even the monthly actually looks like it's putting in a low here. Yeah, I think that this thing, honestly, long term, I don't know how long it's going to take, but long term, somewhere around 1130, 1140-ish region. This thing has had a pretty nasty downside move. I think you're in a bounce posturing from here after just not fucking falling apart even more. That's a good sign for at least a pity bounce. So yeah, short term, 1075, I don't know, maybe in the next month. More longer term, whatever target that we just spoke about earlier. All right, cool. Let's move on. We have the muzzle fucker. He says, Crown, why do your recent thumbnails look like AI Crown? That's because it is AI Crown. AI Crown looks less hairy, so at least you don't need to worry about Elsa dumping you for his non-hairy ass. Soon enough, Elsa will have a crown bot, like a robot with everything me, and then she can just hang out with that all day. So yeah. Can't fucking wait, huh? Anyways, Cookie Monster says, after this tariff reversal, I wonder if it's a good idea to have a Truth Social account and follow Trump. Do you have one? I don't have one, but I do there is an account on Twitter that reposts his posts from his whatever the fuck his one is called to Twitter, and I just see it there. But yeah, this is the one thing, or not one of the things, but it's one of the things that I really hate about a Trump presidency is that his tweets move the market, and he tweets fucking often. So you do actually have to pay attention because it does matter. So whichever way it takes for you to get that information, probably useful. Anyways, R. Chales says, when are crypto denizens allowed to post questions for the next Q&A, the one on tomorrow's live stream? My man, you have misunderstood what this is about. If you want to post questions on a live stream, post questions on a live stream. That's the only place that we'll field questions from. But these are for the pre-recorded weekly Q&As that we're doing right now. So yeah. Anyways, GK 360 plus 640 is 1,000. And you say, sir, following me since 2018. Holy shit, that's awesome, man. Never said anything. Never said thank you for sharing your knowledge. All good, man. All good. I'm not like that where it's like, have you ever said thank you before? I don't fucking care, man. But I do appreciate it. Of course, I do appreciate it, but I don't expect it. You can't expect people to appreciate anything, right? Anyways, would you look at Swiss franc versus the dollar? Ooh, yeah, let's look at this. CHF USD. I would imagine, I'm going to guess that it's doing very well, and it is doing very well. Wow, yeah, up in a way. 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence on the monthly. I think that this thing is going to test at least your closing highs this year. That would be 127.5. I think I really do think that it will test the all-time high. I don't know how long it's going to take, this quarterly chart, but yeah, this is one massive long-term accumulation between 2011 till current, and I think that this one is being resolved actually this year. So I wouldn't even be surprised to see new all-time highs. Maybe not this year, but within 2 years would seem quite likely to me. How deep into this video are we? Nearly 1 hour, and we just have a few more questions here to get through. All right. Yao Manao says, here from 2019. Hell yeah, man. Basically an OG at this point. Caretaker's RSI and the Jewel are game changers for scalping. Yeah, man. Caretaker's RSI, okay, from a coding perspective, it is not simple in one bit, but from just from an indicator purpose perspective, it's a pretty simple concept. And it's like the one that I use almost the most, I would say, maybe even the most. It's fucking good. It's fucking good. Anyways, I'm glad to hear that. What's going on with whiff on the daily chart? It's pumping as of Friday, but it feels sus. I think that's the youngins' way of saying it. Looks sketch. Am I right not to trust this meme pump? I don't know. I haven't looked at this thing in a long time. Define trust the pump, right? If you're asking me, do I think it's going to bounce from here back to all-time highs? No, I think that this thing will actually probably never even trade higher than whatever this high is over here. Do I think it's going to bounce and put in a really big fucking upside move? Yeah, I do. I think this thing, over the following month or 2 or 3 or something like this, I don't know how long it's going to take. I think it easily bounce all the way up to $1 again. That's a 2x move from where it's at right now. It's going to take time, though, I would really think. Of course, the daily is still in a downtrend, so maybe I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but weekly on a bullish engulfing dildo, assuming that it closes here higher by the end of the day, I'm gonna say that the daily will reverse. It's very likely to. Yes, you'll probably get a pullback somewhere around 57-60 cents or so, but I think that you at some point push through there. You got several drives of bullish divergence here on the daily, probably even the weekly. Actually, no, you do not on the weekly. Maybe on the 2-day time frame. Indeed, the 2-day time frame certainly does have it. I do think at least you'll get to 80-ish, 85 cents, somewhere around there, and maybe even $1, and then come back to it after that. Again, this thing's been beat to all fucking hell. Wouldn't be asking too much to get a decent bounce here. 93.5% down. Again, I ain't saying this thing is going to be retesting prior all-time highs. I ain't saying this thing is going to be making new all-time highs. I don't think that's going to be happening this cycle. Maybe not even ever, but I do think it's going to have a big upside move from here. Again, this is the real chart. This is the real chart. It's not fucking good. It's not fucking good, but looking for a big bounce out, I think. Anyways, Nick L says, Crown, appreciate your videos, amazing stuff. Thanks, man. How does the meta signals, the new meta signals alert on the Bitcoin daily, affect your view of whether we reverse from here? TP1 is 87. So when you talk about reverse from here, I would just say that pertains to the daily time frame. Yeah, I do think that's a very powerful signal. I do think that you'll at least hit target number 1. That's 87. It's also a target that we've been looking at on this channel based off of a few things, but I do think that you hit at least that target. Could it turn into a reversal that brings it into like the mid 90s? I do think so, but I wouldn't look at that as a signal as like, oh shit, things are reversing for forever. It does give you probabilities, and I imagine target number 3, which is very low probability, below 30%, is probably, well, if it's above it. Okay, where is target number 2, target number 3? Because if it's above 95, I'd say that's not great, not great probability right now. But yeah, as far as my opinion of whether things will reverse, it's the same as before, man. I need to see above 95 on a higher term time frame closure. Until then, based off of the things that have happened in the past couple of weeks, I think that the market is switching around, and at best we're going to get a sideways market between like 95 and 70 for a long time, or maybe it's like 75, something like this. I mean, basically the lows. If we get something like that, I would still be bullish until like the end of the year, but we'd have to see like multiple months of that range. And we only have about 1 right now, or 1.5, I suppose, right now. And the other scenario is that you just get general trend continuation on the higher term timeframes, which obviously would not be a reversal, but give it a chance here. I do think at least you're going to hit target number 1. If you can hit target number 2 or target number 3, depending upon where they are, if they're above 95, then we got something real to talk about. But yeah, anyways, last one, we'll do Ann's Chickens. Hey, Crown, been a viewer since 2022. Nice one, man. Well wishes from Florida. Fuck yeah, love the place. You mentioned the 55 EMA from time to time, but the standard is usually 50. Why the 55? Oh, it's actually very, very simple. So 55 is a Fibonacci number. So I put more weight on Fibonacci numbers compared to regular numbers, like a 50, even though they're very, very close. I look at the 55 as, probably more relevant. But yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. I mean, they're effectively going to give you about the same price anyways, like 5 differential between those two periods is really not going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference, right? It's just giving you the average of the last 50 bars versus the average of the last 55 bars. Probably not going to be like significantly different. So you can get away with using both. Same thing on the 20 and 21. I prefer the 21. It's fib level. Yes, 20 is your traditional one. Do you have to use it? I mean, it's going to be about the same thing. Is there going to be like a humongous differential between the two? No, absolutely not. All right. We are past our time here. But I do see that there's a couple people on Twitter right now. Oh, God. All right, we'll look at CRV. Fine. We'll look at CRV. But this is really not intended to be a Twitter Q&A. Just kind of hanging out here. Okay, this thing is proving itself. I do agree. Weekly higher low. It's about to close one massive bullish engulfing dildo. I think that this thing actually does trade to the upside from here. Long term, I don't think it's going to be some sort of macro reversal. I think you're almost undoubtedly not going to get above these December 2024 highs, but I do think it could have a big upside move from here. Could easily come up to like 70, 80, even 90 cents. Shit, could even go for $1, which is a tremendous move from here, but I wouldn't be calling no reversal just yet. The reason why I can't call a reversal because this thing's never known what an uptrend is, so not wise to be betting on something that's never happened. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means I ain't gonna fucking bet on that direction. But yeah, that's where we're gonna end it for today. Thanks for joining in on Twitter. I'll continue to do these. Like I said, when I'm recording a video, I'll just go live on Twitter and we can just hang out, shoot the shit. But that's it for the weekly Q&A, and we'll have another one next week. Like I said, I already posted the new ones over here on Discord. Anyone can join in on Discord for free, by the way. It's very, very simple. Just follow the link in the description below, and then, well, maybe not so simple for some people, but but for most people, 99% of people, you just need to go over here, find the most recent week, and there you go. And we'll do as many as we can in an hour. So that's where we'll end it for today. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.